Greetings to all viewers. We, the members of Group 1, will be presenting on teaching strategies suitable for teaching children with disabilities. I am Technisha Class.
I'm Linda Evans. Miss Alexia Kramer.
Rose Musinho. I am Annalise Berger.
Do enjoy the balance of this video. Thank you.
Special education is a field that focuses on providing tailored instruction to students with diverse learning needs. These students may have disabilities, developmental delays, or other challenges that require individualized attention and support. In order to effectively teach these students, educators must employ various teaching strategies that cater to their unique needs. Some teaching strategies suitable for students with disabilities are response to intervention, discrete trial, social story, teach, differentiated instruction, Malayu teaching, direct instruction, pivotal response, and errorless learning.
Hi there. So, I will be looking at the response to intervention teaching method and the discrete trial teaching method. So before we go into, let us define what is response to intervention. According to Special Education Guide, response intervention is a process used by educators to help students who are struggling with a skill or lesson. This method aims to identify students that has or have weaknesses to give them the support and monitoring they need to prevent academic failure. There are 3 tiers of support depending on the student's need. Now the first tier, or tier number 1, is that it's focused on, let's say, the whole class. Tier 2 is focused in groups, smaller groups. Apart from the whole, you can put your children into groups. And tier 3 is individually. So, 2 objectives of this method is to identify struggling students early on and give them the support they need to strive in school, to do better. That is number 1. And number 2 is to set clear, defined learning and behavioral goals for each student based on their challenges. It was said that this method was developed starting in the late 1900s by numerous researchers, seeking a method to identify learning disabilities that avoids the problem of the discrepancy model. Response to intervention, or the RTI, emerged from the 2004 reauthorization of the Individuals with Education Act, the IDEA, as a method to help identify students with specific learning disabilities and behavior. How is it used, or how is this method used? Most educators use this to a student or in groups to help them succeed in their academic performance. So in their classroom, educators would use the differentiated instruction here, whereby they plan their lessons that cater for all the learners in the classroom. We also have scaffolding. We encourage those students who are at a standard level to keep on working and to give them additional work. And we can also use the use of clear rubric. We show examples of below and grade level before we actually release these students to do work on themselves or independent work. Next, we will focus on the discrete trial teaching method, or the DTT. Now, discrete trial is a method of teaching that is based on the principles of applied behavior analysis, or the ABA. It is structured in a systematic way to teach in special education to those with disabilities, especially with autism. It is a method that is widely used in special education to teach those and break down complex skills into smaller and manageable skills. So, the ultimate goal of this discrete trial teaching is that it focuses on teaching a student to be able to independently perform skills in a responsive and appropriate situations in the environment. Who developed the discrete trial? The discrete trial teaching method was developed by Dr. Ivar Lovaas in the 1970s. He is a renowned psychologist and researcher in the field of autism. He helped people with autism spectrum disorder, or the ASD, to get better by teaching them using the discrete trial. Two objectives of this method is: one, to help others with autism to learn new skills and respond appropriately to situations, and two, to reduce errors and promote generalization and maintenance of learned skills and behavior. So how is this method used? So there are also three distinct parts of how you can use the discrete trial. So the first part is the trainer's presentation, the instruction or materials presented to the learners from the trainer or the educator. The second part is the learner's response. The learner's response following the instruction, whether they did it right or whatever was said from the trainer, and however the learner responds to that instruction. And three, we have the consequences. Now, what follows the learner's responses is either they have to reinforce it again or make corrections. Now, for this to happen, the teaching environment must be highly structured and controlled so that the learner is given opportunities. Words and actions go hand in hand in this method. The person in charge must be able to break down complex skills into smaller units for these learners to respond, or must be able to master it before moving on onto another skill. So that is what the discrete trial teaching is all about. I hope you understand and learn from this. Thank you.
What is social story? A social story is a simple description of a situation, concept, or social skill. According to Carol Gray, a social story accurately describes a context, skill, achievement, or concept. Social stories help explain situations that children find challenging. They describe social situations or concepts in a layout that is clear and meaningful for children with ASD, that means autism spectrum disorder. The social story helps guide the child through a social situation that they are having difficulty managing. Social stories are visual tools that are used to teach desirable social behavior to children with impairments and disorders. These evidence-based and positive tactics guide pupils through specific circumstances such as turning and making friends. Who developed social story? The social story method of teaching is a widely recognized and effective approach for individuals with autism spectrum disorder. This method aims to improve social skills, communication, and behavior by using personalized stories and provide guidance and support. The development of this method can be attributed to Carol Gray, an American educator and consultant. Carol Gray began her career as a teacher in 1970s, working with children who had ASD. She quickly realized that traditional teaching methods were not effective for these students, particularly when it came to social interactions. Gray observed that individuals with ASD struggle to understand social cues, norms, and expectations. In response to this challenge, Gray developed the social story method, as a way to teach social skills in a structured and visual manner. She created shared stories that describe specific situations or behaviors in a simple language using visual support such as pictures or drawings. These stories were personalized for each individual needs and provided clear instructions on how to navigate social situations. Gray's method gained recognition and popularity among educators, therapists, and parents working with individuals on the autism spectrum. Her work has been widely published, and she has conducted numerous workshops around the world to train others in implementing the social story method effectively. Objectives of social story. Two objectives of the social story method of teaching are: the social story method helps people with autism spectrum disorder understand social cues and how to interact with others. People with ASD sometimes have trouble understanding social rules and expectations, which make it hard for them to make friends. The social story method uses stories that are personalized to each person to teach them how to act in different situations. These stories explain what is expected and help them understand how other people feel and what they mean. The social story method also helps people with ASD feel less worried and learn how to control their feelings. Some people with ASD get very nervous because they have trouble understanding and dealing with social situations. Social stories can make them feel better by giving them a plan and structure. These stories show them what to do step by step in different situations so they can feel like they have some control over what happens. By using these stories, people can learn how to manage their emotions and act the right way when things get difficult. How is it used? Social stories are mostly used to instruct students with autism and other neurological disorders. Children with autism struggle with many social aspects of life, including making and keeping friends. They may want to make friends, but they lack social skills to do so in an acceptable way. Next, teach. What is teach? Teach, TEACCH, is an abbreviation that stands for Treatment and Education of Autistic and Related Communications Handicapped Children. It is a lifelong program that tries to build on children's existing talents and strengths in order to encourage their development with autism spectrum disease. The National Autistic Society offers Teach training. Who developed Teach, or TEACCH? The Treatment and Education of Autistic and Related Communications Handicapped Children method of teaching was developed by Eric Skopler, a psychologist in the 1960s. Skopler recognized the need for specialized approach to educating children with autism and related communication disorders, as traditional teaching methods were often ineffective for these individuals. Its methodology gives an organized kind of visual learning and is frequently referred to as organized teaching. Objectives of Teach. Two objectives of Teach are: it focuses on promoting independence in children with autism. The program emphasizes the development of self-help skills such as dressing, eating, and personal hygiene. By teaching these essential life skills, children become more self-sufficient and are better equipped to navigate daily activities independently. This objective is crucial as it empowers individuals with autism to lead fulfilling lives by reducing the reliance on others for basic tasks. Teach aims to enhance social skills in autistic children. Social interaction can be challenging for individuals with autism due to difficulties in understanding nonverbal cues, initiating conversations, or interpreting emotions. Through structured activities and visual supports, Teach helps children develop social communication skills like turn-taking, sharing, and empathy. These skills enable them to engage effectively with peers and build meaningful relationships. How is it used? The TEACH technique incorporates the fundamental concepts of structured teaching. These principles include the structuring of the physical environment, a predictable order of activities, visual schedules, routines, and flexibility, work or activity systems, and visually structured activities. Research studies have shown that TEACH method is effective. One study states that this method impacted autistic children's adaptive behaviors plus social reciprocity, including the parent stress levels and parent-child interactions. Similar research has shown this method is effective in reducing self-injurious behaviors. Mesibov, GB, Shia v. 2010.
What is differentiated instruction? Carol Ann Tomlinson in 2016 described differentiated instruction as factoring students' individual learning styles and levels of readiness first before designing a lesson plan. Differentiated instruction is a teaching approach that acknowledges and addresses the varying learning needs of students. It entails customizing instruction to cater to the unique needs, interests, and abilities of each student in the class. Who developed differentiated instruction? The idea of differentiated instruction was first introduced by American psychologist Edward Thorndike in the early 1900s. He believed that students have different abilities and learn at different rates, and therefore instruction should be adapted to meet their individual needs. However, it wasn't until the 1970s that differentiated instruction gained more attention in the educational research. In the 1970s, educational theorists such as Carol Ann Tomlinson began advocating for a more student-centered approach to teaching. They argued that traditional one-size-fits-all instruction was not effective for all learners and called for teachers to differentiate their instruction based upon students' readiness, interest, and learning profiles. How is differentiated instruction used? In order to use differentiated instruction, teachers can give students options in assignments or lesson plans, provide multiple learning materials, and utilize diverse personalized learning methods and student assessments. How is differentiated instruction virtually relevant? Differentiated instruction has gained significant relevance in the virtual realm due to its ability to personalize learning experiences for students. By using technology tools and platforms, teachers can help students with different abilities. As education changes in the digital age, teachers will keep using different ways to teach each student.
Good, so I will be looking at two other teaching strategies that are milieu teaching and direct instruction. So, milieu teaching was developed by Hart and Risley in the 1970s. It is a strategy that a language intervention that aims to teach communication skills and language development by creating a supportive and communicative environment for children who have language delay or disorder. So a number of stimuli can be arranged in the child's natural communicative environment to help teach language skills, where that child spends most of his or her time, for example, at home or in school. So using everyday experience and activities to encourage language and provide feedback on communication attempt. Milieu teaching is one that teaches the functional use of language skills that have immediate effect on the child's everyday life, for example, making a request or asking questions. One example is setting stimuli in the child path so he or she can make a request, where making that request will be the targeted language. The objectives of milieu teaching are
1. To increase the frequency and the complexity of a child's verbal communication by teaching communication skills and promoting the use during natural conversation. And 2. To encourage the generalization of these skills to various settings and communication parts. Direct instruction method or strategy was developed by Siegfried Engelmann and Wesley C. Baker in the 1960s. Direct instruction is a teaching method that involves explicit structure and teacher-led instruction. It is a very common teaching strategy, relying on strict lesson plan and lecturers which leave little or no room for variation. This systemic approach that can be used by teachers to help break down complex skills into smaller, more manageable components that can be taught one at a time. So direct instruction is more of a teacher-centered strategy because it involves the teacher delivering information, modeling skills and concepts, providing guided practice and feedback to students. It does not include activities like discussion, recitation, seminars, workshop, case study, or internship. This model is often used in academic subjects such as math and reading, starting at the basics before moving on into the more complex topics. Hence, two objectives of direct instruction are 1. To provide clear and concise instructions to students in a structured and organized manner with a focus on specific learning outcomes and objectives. 2. To actively engage students in the learning process through a range of instructional practices such as questioning, modeling, and guided practice to ensure that all are able to understand and apply the new knowledge or skill being taught. So direct instruction can be used in many ways during class or a lesson. Here are some examples. You can use step-by-step procedures to guide students through skill-building activities or problem-solving tasks, providing immediate feedback on student performance and progress. Differentiated instruction based on individual student ability or need. Thank you.
In conclusion, the use of effective teaching strategies in special education is crucial in promoting student engagement and enhancing learning outcomes. By employing a variety of teaching techniques such as direct instruction, pivotal response, differentiated instruction, teach, and Malayu, educators can create a dynamic and inclusive classroom environment that caters to the diverse needs of their students. Ultimately, these strategies contribute to improved academic performance and overall student success.